Cuteness is in the eye of the beholder. I'm sure we can all agree on, puppies and kittens or whatever, but just about everything else is a matter of taste. If you'll pardon me painting with a very broad brush, Japanese artists are rather famous for being able to find or manufacture cuteness in just about anything. The nuances of kawaii and its role in Japanese culture is a topic for a whole nother podcast, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Whether we're talking children's cartoons or product mascots, Japan has given the world adorable depictions of everything from bugs to inanimate objects to deep-sea creatures from my nightmares. Which, in this case, means eels. Maybe I just watched The Princess Bride a little too young, but I've always found eels to be unsettling at best and downright terrifying at worst. So, naturally, someone over at Internet Co. Limited heard one of the cutest voices to ever grace human ears and thought, yeah, you know what? Let's give this kid an eel theme. Otomachi Una's name uses the kanji for sound and town for the family name, and derives her given name from the Japanese word for eel, unagi. She's portrayed as an 11-year-old, but unlike some of the other young-sounding voice banks like Kai Yuki or Oliver, her voice was sampled from a professional adult voice actress. Tanaka Aimi is probably best known for her lead role in the comedy slice of life anime Himoto Umaru-chan, for which she also sings the opening theme. The first season of the anime came out in 2015, about a year before Una's release, and you can definitely hear hints of Tanaka's future vocal synth performance in that opening, cycling between a loud, boisterous belt and a much sweeter, gentler sound. These two tones will become the basis for Una's first two voice banks for the Vocaloid 4 engine. Sugar and Spicy were, of course, named after that old nursery rhyme about what little girls are made of, and the end result is everything nice. Sugar, naturally, has the sweeter tone. It's a little bit closer to how a real 11-year-old girl might sing, though both voice banks are definitely voice-acted and stylized. Spicy, meanwhile, is based off of that louder, almost tomboyish performance. Internet Co. Limited, which is also the company behind big names like Gumi and Gakupo, first teased these two voice banks with a short trailer revealing her character silhouettes on June 15th, 2016. 2 weeks later, another video confirmed that both Sugar and Spicy belong to one character, and that Otomachi Una V4 would be available at the end of July. Almost all of Una's designs have outfits that very vaguely resemble school uniforms, if an edgy, rather theatrical child of around Una's age got complete free rein to customize them. Spicy has a sort of a scene kid take on the blazer and tie look, with glowy electric green accents and a lightning bolt motif. Meanwhile, Sugar's look is sort of a cross between a fancy seifuku and an even fancier marching band outfit. And then, of course, there is the eel hat. It's an oversized round beret sort of thing with a fishy little face and big bows on the side of Una's head that look like gills or fins. Its name is Ottoman bow. I have no idea why this or any hat ought to share its name with the old Turkish Empire, but I suppose that Ottoman sounds close enough to Otomachi that somebody at Internet Co. probably thought they were very clever indeed. It makes expressions to match whatever emotions Una is showing in the illustration, and I really wish I did not find the hat as unnerving as I do, because I am a grown-ass adult and I should not find anything unnerving about an adorable 11-year-old anime child. But I digress. This is a podcast about singing robots, so let's talk about the singing. V4 was the era of cross-synthesis, the editing factor that allowed users to blend characteristics from multiple voice banks for the same character. Sort of the precursor to what Synthesizer V now does with vocal modes. This meant that Sugar and Spicy could very easily be used in tandem, though each of them individually are already very impressive voice banks on their own. Una's vocal range is huge, one of the biggest of all the voice banks that were available for V4, so even though she is generally used in the higher register, she can go really low before it starts to sound too weird or distorted. The Vocaloid Wiki also describes her as high quality and beginner-friendly, and even though that isn't cited to anything in particular, you can kind of just hear that when you listen to it. The first time I ever heard Una's voice wasn't actually one of her demos or even a Japanese song at all, but an English song by Ghost, Two of a Kind. This was back when Ghost still had a Patreon, so I heard the song a few months ahead of the public release. I remember the flurry of excitement when Ghost asked their fans to submit some artwork for use in the video, and while I acknowledge in hindsight that maybe it wasn't the best move to just ask people for free art, it really worked out for the best. Everyone involved seemed so amped up about working together on this project, and the end result was something really beautiful and unique. Two of a Kind is still one of my favorite songs from Ghost, and easily my favorite pre-AI use of Una for English. People have since made covers with Una's Vocaloid 6 and SynthV AI voice banks, both of which are really good and will be linked in the sources doc, but I still like the original best, janky phonemes and all. Call it nostalgia. To get back to Una's early days though, The producer who's probably best known for his work with Una is Wada Takeaki, also known as Karagepi. He did one of the demo songs for that initial V4 release, titled Hate It, Huge Ego, which remains Una's most popular song with 3 million Nico video views and more than 17 million on YouTube as of recording. As the title would suggest, the lyrics lean into the image of Una as a sort of charmingly energetic brat, but with a softer side. She sings about how she's not like other girls, she's special. The chorus is a demand for praise and love that starts out unabashedly arrogant, but transitions to something more desperate as she realizes that her attitude has pushed people away. Karagepi would create another demo for Una in March of 2017 with the song Beast Dance. This song featured spoken lines in the bridge to demonstrate her new TalkX voice bank for the iTalk 3 engine. It's the same technology behind the Voiceroid lineup for characters like Yuzuki Yukari and Tohoka Zunko's talkbanks, but Una doesn't really get called a Voiceroid because that's actually a brand name owned by Software. I'll get back to Una's talkbanks in a minute, but Karagepi has a few more great Una songs worth highlighting. There's December 2017's Odore VR Dance, which also features a dozen human singers serving as the chorus, including Vocaloid greats like Harumaki Gohan, Nulit, and Tatsuya Kitani. On that same collaborative note, Karagepi contributed to the 2021 compilation album Chimera. His track, Kyohan, or Complicity, was done in partnership with Teni Woha and featured Una singing together with Kagamine Len. There's no video for it since it was just an album-only release, but Una and Len sound fantastic together. Una also sings the Vocaloid version of Karagepi's Project Seikai commission Tera Tera, or Show Off, released in July of 2022. It's one of my favorite commissions from the whole game, and probably my personal number one for the group Leonid. And, most recently, in July of 2023, Karagepi came back for another demo song for Una's Vocaloid 6 release, Dochi Nanda. Its video was done by Karagepi's frequent illustrator Cheriko, done in the style of his older songs like Huge Ego, with black and white sketchy-looking drawings per one bold, flat color per video. As a side note, even if you're not much into Karagepi's music, you've probably seen some of Cheriko's other work in the vocal synth world. He recently illustrated the video for the Project Seikai Commission All Save Challenge by Kashi Moimi, and he's also the official illustrator for the Voicona character Chisei. As an even more tangential side note, that connection got me wondering whether anybody had ever used Chisei and Una together. I couldn't find much, but I did stumble across one cover of Nikki's Close to You with Chisei and Una and Kagamine Rin. I've linked it in the sources doc, but if any of you listeners know of any examples of just Una and Chisei together, I'd love to hear about it. I think they'd sound great. Though there's not much content with that particular matchup, there's no shortage of good Una duets out there, which brings me to Kinoshita, another of the best-known Una producers. Kinoshita has, to put it mildly, a very upbeat and cheerful sound. It's so consistently cheerful that I, as someone who never really grew out of my emo phase, probably should find it grating, but he's just that good. Kinoshita's biggest hit is a duet between Una and Rin called Positive Dance Time, which, like a lot of his songs, has a little unpronounceable star symbol in the written title, just for fun. The lyrics are, obviously, very positive. It's all about facing the day with energy and ambition and good cheer, but I think the thing that makes this song work for me is the fact that it's a duet. By having two characters bouncing the lines back and forth, the song gives the impression of two best friends hyping each other up, which, to me, feels more genuinely happy than just one singer who's shouting positivity at me. Plus, it makes for a great gag in the music video, which Kinoshita also illustrated and animated himself, when Rin does something to embarrass Una and we get a perfectly tuned scream. Kinoshita has done a few other Una-Rin duets, including 2019's Poppin' Candy Fever. That song, along with Positive Dance Time, has been covered for Project Seikai, with renditions by More Jump and Wonderland's Showtime respectively. Positive Dance Time also got a bonus cover for the game's first April Fool's event, which brought together singers from different groups and might be my favorite rendition of all. Kinoshita's most recent Vocaloid song, September 2024's Wakanaito Fever, makes 5 total Una-Rin duets from him, but he's also released several solo Una songs. I really like the video for his 2018 song Do My Best, which used a more cartoony art style than some of his other videos, and also had some cute, scribbly backgrounds made to look like Una drew them herself with crayons. There's also I Wanna Be It, which Tanaka Aimi has covered, and its sequel, I Wanna Be That Faster, which also served as a demo for Una's V6 bank and was uploaded on her 7th anniversary. Kinoshita is definitely the most upbeat of the composers to feature Una, but definitely not the only one who doesn't take himself too seriously. Lamazepi, who created the infinitely memeable songs Popipo and Triple Baka, has used Una for several songs. Of particular note is Pretinkle Sister. The lyrics riff off of that clingy little sister trope that you see in anime sometimes, and I can't really tell how serious it is or how creeped out I should be. And as a baseline, I'm already creeped out by the video, which features Otomenbo's face on not just Una's hat, but all the inanimate objects in the video. The song also has a lot of spoken lines courtesy of Una's talkbank, which is always interesting for me to hear regardless of context. You can't really do that with a lot of popular Vocaloids. I mean, like Miku doesn't have a talkbank, for example. So if you want to talk, usually you have to put a lot of effort into tuning. With Una, it's just easy. And speaking of producers who have been on the Vocaloid scene from the beginning, Cosmo at Bosopi has an Una song called Noisy Crazy Girl that is, ironically, on the tamer side for him. I mean, we are grading on a disappearance of Hatsune Miku-shaped curve here. There's also Ginzaba Crazy Letter, which sounds like a panic attack, and the equally intense Deteke, which was published just 3 weeks before I recorded and uses Una's newest synthesizer V voice bank. In general, though, I'd say Una's most popular among rock producers. Toko Toko, who is usually better known for working with Gumi or Miku, has seen 2 solid Una hits with 2019's Boo and 2021's Shipret. Boo was in Project Sekai, covered by More and More Jump, and while I generally like Vocaloid songs and their Project Sekai covers about equally, I definitely like Una's version best, specifically because of her cute little ad-libs. By my reading, it's a song about passive-aggressive frustration with somebody who you like too much to stay properly mad at, even if they do annoy you. And besides the little boo, boo chants in the chorus, Toko Toko has also added in some other little flourishes. Una shouting how fed up she is, but oh, she totally doesn't even care, whatever. Boo also featured on the 2018 Exit Tunes compilation album Una Chance, along with some of the songs by artists that I've already mentioned. Another Una Chance contributor was Hifumi, an artist who combines rock guitars with traditional Japanese instruments like the shamisen, and has done a lot of songs with Una. My personal favorites are 2018's Dancing Dinosaur and 2021's Sakura Tattoo. The latter was another entry for the Chimera collaborative album that I mentioned. This time, Hifumi worked with the legendary Pinocchio P, and Una sang together with Hatsune Miku. There's also Luna, who has done several duets with Una using another Vocaloid, but no solo songs yet. Their most successful such duet is Manic, which pairs Una with the similarly tomboyish, youthful-sounding Rana. Manic is the first song with Una to crack 1 million YouTube views, and I'm pretty sure it's still Rana's greatest hit. However, my favorite of his Una-Rana duets is 2019's Someday in That Summer. Beyond just being a nice, uplifting song, the music video is super cool. Luna asked fans to send in home videos, kind of like what Ghost did for Two of a Kind, and created a sort of feel-good summertime montage. Naturally, the clips are mostly from Japan, but I spotted one that's definitely from my home country of Canada, judging by the Canada Dry brand soda water with French on the label. And there's a few other snapshots from around the world. A European-looking street, drinks from a Taiwanese bubble tea chain, and even somebody's visit to the Sistine Chapel. Una is also the preferred voice bank of vocal rock artist Go Aoki, or Go-Go T. He's been on the scene for a good 10 years, and mostly used Lily or one of the Kryptonoids for his earlier songs, but his popularity really seems to have picked up after his first Una song in 2019, Summer Film. Una is featured in a lot of his songs ever since, part of a roster that also includes Hatsune Miku and various Voicona voice banks. His biggest song, 2020's Comparison Syndrome, has over 3 million YouTube views, but my personal favorite of his Una songs is Because There's Something About the Heart, which was one of the first originals to use Una's synthesizer V voice bank in late November of 2024, right after it came out. The vocals are stunning, but my favorite part of the song is the bouncy slap bass in it that lends the song some real bite. And the last artist I'd like to highlight for now is Komedawara, also known as Neko Allergy. Though these days they work with a pretty wide variety of voice banks, their earlier works were almost exclusively with Una. This included a pair of songs called Never and its apparent sequel Ever, though it's hard to tell if that's for sure without an English translation. Ever also has a lovely acoustic rendition that was made in collaboration with an artist called C96. This is also an instance where an artist's most popular song is my personal favorite too. Degenerate features a particularly cute tuning of Una that's matched really interestingly with some heavy, grungy guitars and bass. It's a neat contrast. Now, I could go on listing great Una originals until my voice gave out, so I'll wrap this section up with just a simple list of songs that I personally think are worth your time. Schadenfreude by Guccieri, No Friends by V9AP, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, What Gave It Away by Rip Producer, Yes So Monster by 40 Meter P, Tool Shed by Supernuma, which also features Teto, Supernova by R906, Fall Away by Circus P, Proof of Life by Luno, and Kitai Avenue by Ina Bakumori. I'd also be remiss not to note that Una is quite popular among some fantastic cover artists. Celia, aka Kiami, aka the person who did such a good job covering Niki's Error that it got a single release, put out a cover of Ryo's Melt literally a day after Una's release in 2016, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Ago Hiza has done 3 different Una covers of Sinamoto's Q, which I've mentioned before is one of my all-time Vocaloid faves. And in a rare instance of a great Vocaloid cover of a non-Vocaloid song, a cover artist called Tiny Sheep did a really cool rendition of Imogene Heap's viral hit Headlock with Una's V6 bank. And in my opinion, the indisputable queen of Una covers is an artist who goes by Suzy. She does covers with plenty of different voice banks and also has a gorgeous voice of her own, but her Una covers are my favorite. She did one of the Himoto opening that's a really neat contrast with Tanaka Aimi's performance. And when Una's V6 Bank came out, she created an English version of Hate It QG Go with translyrics by Wilhoy. However, Suzy might be best known for her 2 Una covers of Unknown Mother Goose. She released the first one in 2019, just a few days after Woaka's shocking death, and subsequently retuned and remade it about a year and a half later. In the latter, she's got some really interesting ad-libs that don't really translate to me verbally describing them, but they're worth highlighting all the same. They're a great showcase of her skill in tuning Una, and a nice way to make the song sound fresh and to differentiate it from all of the other amazing covers out there. Now, I said that I'd get back to Una's speech synthesis, so let's talk talkbanks. Before Kuragepe released Beast Dance, Internet Co teased Una's talkbank with a member introductions video that showed Sugar and Spicy and the silhouette for an unidentified third design. Una Talk's full look was released a week later, and this time, even the hat had a hat. Specifically, Ottoman Bo was sporting a little graduation cap, which I don't really know what that means. Maybe because talkbanks can be used for online teaching materials? I don't know. But most often, Una's talkbanks have been used for promotional work. For starters, the talkbank lets her do her own voiceovers for commercials for her voice banks. More often, she's been loaned out as a mascot for other advertising or awareness campaigns. In 2020, for example, amidst the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Una starred in a PSA about hand washing. She was also used to promote a mental health hotline during the pandemic called Kokoro no Hot Chat, though that one was actually her singing bank. Chochopi, best known for E Aso or maybe Kokoro Nashi, wrote the song Your Appearance with Una as a commission to promote this service. By far the most notable of Una's mascot work, however, is when she served as a travel ambassador for an entire city, complete with an actual physical train decorated with decals of her in a specially designed train conductor outfit. The Tenryu Hamamako Line, or the Tenhama Line for short, is a railway along the northern coast of Lake Hamama in Shizuoka Prefecture, the same province as the famous Mount Fuji. The train, known as the Una Pipigo, began service on July 27, 2019 from the Tenryu Futamata station in the city of Hamamatsu. It kicked off with a ceremony that features Tanaka Aimi, Una's main illustrator Saito Naoki, a comedian named Yoshikawa Masahiro, who is a member of a comedy duo called Darling Honey and apparently a big fan of trains, and a local Hamamatsu TV personality named Kubo Hitomi. Coinciding with the launch of this service, Una appeared along with Kubo in a series of promotional shorts called Tokimeki Hamamatsu, highlighting various local attractions to encourage tourism and the patronage of local businesses. Now, it's not entirely clear to me why Hamamatsu went for Una specifically. It's not like when Hatsune Miku promotes Sapporo, which is kind of her hometown by way of Krypton Future Media, because Una's parent company is based in Osaka. And it's not like Tohoku Zunko, who was created specifically to serve as a mascot for the Tohoku region after the big earthquake in 2011. However, and I do want to be clear that this is pure speculation on my part, it may have something to do with the fact that the local specialty dish in Hamamatsu is, you guessed it, grilled unagi. In fact, in the 7th episode of Tokimeki Hamamatsu, Kubo visits the Kanafuri Eel Farm. There, she and Una explain the aquaculture and conservation techniques employed by the farm, before Kubo enthusiastically samples a big eel rice bowl. The city of Hamamatsu ultimately put out 36 installments of Tokimeki Hamamatsu, which are all in a playlist on the town's official YouTube channel. They aren't translated into English, unfortunately, but even if you don't speak a lick of Japanese, it's still quite endearing to watch a middle-aged woman eagerly tromp around an eel farm with Una's high-energy voiceover to back her up. Since the end of Tokimeki, there hasn't been anything else nearly as big for Una in terms of mascot work, but her speech voice bank releases have continued apace. In September 2023, she received an AI voice bank for Dreamtonic's text-to-speech synth VoiceSpeak. And just this year, in February, she received a voice bank for iVoice 2, the successor software to that first TalkX voice bank. She also got a voice bank for the real-time voice morph software Voidal in 2021, but I found relatively few examples of that one being used. However, I'm pretty sure we're all into vocal synth for the music, so I'd say the more exciting developments of the 2020s for Una have been her AI singing voice banks. As I mentioned before, Una joined the Vocaloid 6 lineup in July of 2023, once more with 2 separate Sugar and Spicy voice banks. The Spicy character design is kind of a lot, even for Una, but my distaste here is very much a love-to-hate thing. And on the other hand, I do unironically love the V6 Sugar design. I'm always a sucker for marching band looks. AI for V6 has cross-language synthesis, so this was the first time that Una had access to the full phonetic inventory of the English language. I'll preface what I'm about to say by noting that I've never worked with any of Una's voice banks, but as someone who has worked with both V6 and Synthesizer V, I'd say Synthesizer V is generally much easier to use in a lot of different contexts, including having much clearer results for the cross-language output. However, just from listening to various examples of its usage, I'd say that Una definitely seems like one of the best voice banks out there for V6, with a much better English sound than, say, any of the Japanese default banks like Haruka or Akito. and there's no clearer demonstration of what Una V6 is capable of than Susie's Our Hand. I mentioned Susie's skills as a cover artist, but more recently she started releasing original music, and Our Hand was a hell of a debut. Susie worked with CNRI, Alaska Sargent, and Guitar Hero Piano Zero to write, arrange, and mix a song, as well as leading a small team to make a fully animated music video. Both the song and the video were inspired by the work of Harumaki Gohan, and you can definitely see the influence throughout. The project also took a little over a year and a half to complete. Susie has subsequently released a self-cover with her own voice, which is gorgeous, and another incredible Una originally called Speed of Spice, which brings me to our next big turning point, the release of Otomachi Una for Synthesizer V. Internet Co. had already released Una for One Dream Tonic's project, VoiceSpeak, so in hindsight, the Synthesizer V release was a pretty natural development. All the same, I remember being incredibly surprised to hear the news. Once Una's V6 had come out, I kind of just assumed that was where she was going to stay. It's still not super common for characters to get voice banks for both Vocaloid and Synth V, so the fact that a character as popular as Una was going to blaze this trail was absolutely huge. Interestingly, though Internet Co. is still the distributor and still ultimately owns the rights to Una's character, they didn't actually make the voice bank this time. Instead, they outsourced the development to AH Software, who, to be fair, has a long history of taking voice banks that started on a different engine and developing them for Synth V. The most notable of these is probably Kasane Teto, but they've done these with a whole bunch of characters. Regardless of who exactly supervised the sampling process, Una's Synthesizer V AI voice bank came out on November 27, 2024, after being teased on Twitter about a month earlier. Registered owners of Una's Vocaloid banks were eligible for a discount, and those who pre-ordered the voice bank also got a so-called cute booster pack of extra samples. Because of how Synthesizer V works, this release abandoned the 2 voice bank model in favor of 6 vocal modes: boyish, cute, downer, falsetto, power, and whisper. She also now had access to all of the languages supported by Synthesizer V, though I've personally only really seen her used for Japanese and English. There's already talk of an upgrade for Synthesizer V2 as well, though as of recording, that seems like it's still a long ways off. Until then, Una's doing pretty good. I missed out on getting this episode up in time for her birthday on July 30th, but I'll close out with somebody who celebrated better than I ever could. Oyster Project released the song Plastic Bow Butler on the 30th with Una's Vocaloid bank, and it is absolutely fantastic. The song was written for a console and mobile game called Archaea, but it stands on its own just fine. The music video features Una going on a zany adventure that's probably inspired by whatever goes on in that game, but it's hard to be sure since there aren't any English subtitles yet. I'm pretty sure this was Oyster Project's first time working with Una, and I really hope that it's not a one-off performance, because Una sounds incredible. But then again, she always does. I discovered a lot of great stuff while I was researching this episode, and it's all linked in the sources document if you want to check it out. So, until next time, happy listening, and beware of eels.